Throughout the mid-20th century, a large number of high-profile figures, from Hollywood starlets and singers to crime bosses themselves, met untimely ends amid whispers of mob involvement. In some cases, organized crime's hand is widely accepted. In others, it remains a tantalizing theory. Here are 17 Golden Age celebrities whose lives and deaths have been linked to the grip of the Mafia. Some were victims. Others were insiders. All paid a terrible price. William Desmond Taylor. William Desmond Taylor was a respected early Hollywood director, known for films like Huckleberry Finn and his friendships with stars such as Mabel Normand and Mary Miles Minter. On February 2, 1922, Taylor was found shot to death in his Los Angeles bungalow, a murder that shocked Hollywood and became one of its first major scandals. The case remains officially unsolved, but one theory pointed to organized crime. Taylor had reportedly been trying to shield actress Mabel Normand from drug dealers supplying her cocaine, even chasing one dealer away shortly before his death. At the time, Los Angeles' underworld was growing, with bootleggers and dope peddlers in the mix. Some suspect Taylor's intervention angered narcotics traffickers, enough that they silenced him in retribution. Police also encountered studio meddling. Paramount executives descended on the crime scene and allegedly removed letters and evidence in the hours after the murder, muddying the investigation. To this day, Taylor's murder highlights the shadowy intersection of Hollywood glamour and underworld vice in the 1920s, with rumors persisting that the nascent drug syndicates of LA played a role in his demise. Thelma Todd, the ice cream blonde. Thelma Todd was a popular comedic actress of the early 1930s, appearing in Marx Brothers and Laurel and Hardy films. Her mysterious death at age 29 remains one of Hollywood's great unsolved cases. On December 16, 1935, Todd was found dead in her car inside the garage of her cafe on the Pacific Coast Highway. The coroner ruled carbon monoxide poisoning, likely accidental, but suspicions of foul play arose immediately. Todd had bruises, cracked ribs, and a broken nose inconsistent with a simple monoxide accident. One prevailing theory alleges the involvement of mob boss Lucky Luciano. Todd had been romantically linked to Luciano and reportedly angered him by refusing to let him set up an illegal casino in her successful sidewalk cafe, supposedly snapping "over my dead body" during an argument. Luciano's chilling reply, "that can be arranged," has since become Hollywood lore. In fact, Todd had run with a fast crowd. She was once married to Pat DeSico, a mob-connected agent who abused her, and through him met Luciano. Luciano allegedly supplied her drugs to keep her weight down and wanted to muscle into her business. When Todd turned him down, some believe he ordered her killed. Official inquiries never proved murder, but Todd's suspicious injuries and the absence of fingerprints on her car fueled talk of a cover-up. Decades later, her death is still debated as an accident, suicide, or mob hit against a starlet who stood up to the Mafia's demands. Ted Healey. Ted Healey was a comedian whose act eventually launched the Three Stooges, but his own career ended in a cloud of suspicion. In December 1937, just hours after celebrating the birth of his first child, Healey died suddenly in Los Angeles at age 41. The coroner cited acute toxic nephritis, kidney failure linked to heavy drinking, as the official cause. To authorities, it was a natural death caused by alcoholism. Hollywood insiders told a different story. Rumors spread that Healey had been beaten to death during a fight at the Trocadero nightclub. Names like MGM star Wallace Beery, future James Bond producer Albert Cubby Broccoli, and mob-connected agent Pat DeSico surfaced as alleged assailants. According to later accounts, Healey argued with Beery, then was assaulted by Broccoli and DeSico outside. Within hours, he collapsed and never recovered. Contemporary police records, however, mention only a minor scuffle with college boys, and the autopsy reported no traumatic injuries. Still, MGM's fixer Eddie Mannix may have helped suppress damaging details. Beery was abruptly sent on a European vacation after the incident. Historians today remain divided. Healey's chronic alcoholism supports the medical verdict, yet the shadow of a mob-connected cover-up lingers. His death remains one of Hollywood's most enduring gray zone mysteries, officially natural causes, but forever haunted by whispers of fists, fixers, and silence. Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. Not every name tied to Hollywood glamour fell as an innocent. Bugsy Siegel, the dashing New York mobster who, embodied the mob's allure in Los Angeles, met his end in pure underworld fashion. Siegel had poured syndicate money into the Flamingo Hotel, dreaming of a luxury casino that would transform Las Vegas. But by 1947, the project was bleeding cash. His partners, Meyer Lansky, Lucky Luciano, and other East Coast bosses were enraged at the cost overruns and whispered that Siegel was skimming off the top. On June 20th, 1947, Siegel was relaxing in his girlfriend Virginia Hill's Beverly Hills home, reading a newspaper, when an unseen gunman opened fire through the living room window with a .30 caliber carbine. The barrage of bullets struck him multiple times, including 2 fatal shots to the head. The execution was swift, brutal, and made national headlines. No one was ever charged, yet almost every historian agrees it was a mob-ordered hit. The style, a sniper attack from outside, and the timing were damning. Within hours of Siegel's murder, syndicate associates seized control of the Flamingo. His killing became a textbook Mafia lesson. A man who built Vegas for the mob was just as expendable as anyone else, Gene Spangler. Gene Spangler's story begins like a Hollywood dream and ends in a chilling blank space. A young dancer and aspiring actress, she worked in bit parts while hoping for her breakthrough role. On the night of October 7th, 1949, she left home saying she had to meet her ex-husband, followed by a late-night film shoot. She never came back. 2 days later, her purse was found near Griffith Park Observatory. Inside lay a half-finished note. "Kirk, can't wait any longer. Going to see Dr. Scott. Mother is away." The cryptic words, coupled with Gene's Hollywood ties, sparked fevered headlines. Was Kirk actor Kirk Douglas, who denied knowing her well? Or someone else entirely? Whispers of a darker explanation soon emerged. Spangler had reportedly been involved with David "Little Davy" Ogle, an associate of mob boss Mickey Cohen. Witnesses even placed her with Ogle in Palm Springs days before her disappearance. Strangely, Ogle vanished around the same time, allegedly fleeing charges, but Mafia informants later suggested he was murdered. Did Gene share his fate? Some witnesses claimed that they saw her with gangster types on the night she disappeared. Despite exhaustive searches, her body was never found. The mystery of Gene Spangler lingers, a rising star who may have been swallowed by the underworld shadows surrounding Hollywood. Mario Lanza. Mario Lanza was the voice of a generation, an operatic tenor turned Hollywood sensation, whose role in The Great Caruso made him an international star. Yet behind the booming voice and matinee idol looks, Lanza lived in turmoil, battling weight issues, crash diets, and professional disputes. His sudden death in Rome in October 1959, at just 38, shocked the world. Doctors pointed to a heart attack, likely complicated by blood clots from phlebitis treatment, and his family accepted this explanation. Still, another story gained traction. Whispers claimed Lanza had crossed mob boss Lucky Luciano, then living in Italy. According to rumor, Luciano demanded a private performance. When Lanza refused, the mob ensured he would never sing again, perhaps through a hot dose of medicine or a botched medical procedure arranged to look natural. Though historians dismiss this as myth, noting Luciano himself was gravely ill, the story spread quickly. Biographers maintain Lanza died from years of strain on his body, worsened by dieting and alcohol. Yet, the Mafia tale became inseparable from his legend. For admirers, the possibility that organized crime punished him reflects the dangers of stardom in an era when mobsters had their hooks in entertainment. George Reeves. George Reeves, the actor who embodied Superman for a generation of television viewers, died in a way that seemed almost scripted for a Hollywood noir. On the night of June 16, 1959, Reeves was found in his Beverly Hills bedroom with a fatal gunshot wound to the head. He was 45 years old. Police quickly ruled the death a suicide, citing depression over being typecast as Superman and the struggles of a career that had stalled. To the public, the explanation was tragically simple: a fated hero undone by his own despair. But for those who knew Reeves, the suicide verdict never rang true. He had been preparing to marry his fiancée, Leonore Lemon, and had spoken optimistically about new roles and projects. At the crime scene, investigators found strange details that cast doubt on the official story. Bruises on Reeves's body, no fingerprints on the gun, and multiple bullet holes in the floor, as though shots had been fired before the fatal one. Witnesses in the house that night gave conflicting accounts, and the inquiry was wrapped up. With unusual haste, attention soon shifted to Reeves's tangled personal life. For years, he had been romantically involved with Toni Mannix. the much older wife of MGM executive Eddie Mannix. Eddie's reputation as a ruthless fixer with ties to organized crime was well known in Hollywood. When Reeves broke off his affair with Tony to pursue marriage with Lemon, gossip spread that Eddie, protective of his wife's honor, may have arranged a mob-style hit. Some accounts even claim Tony confessed late in life that she and Eddie were behind Reeves's death. Although no evidence has ever proven murder, the cloud of suspicion never lifted. Reeves's death remains officially a suicide, but to many it marked the start of a dark Superman curse, with the Man of Steel himself perhaps felled not by despair, but by Hollywood's underworld. Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe's death, like her life, became the stuff of legend and conspiracy. On August 5, 1962, the 36-year-old screen goddess was found lifeless in her Brentwood home, an apparent overdose of barbiturate pills. The coroner ruled it a probable suicide, citing Monroe's history of depression and prior pill incidents. Yet, almost immediately, rumors of murder began swirling, and one of the most popular theories fingers the Mafia. In the 1960s, Monroe was romantically linked to President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy. According to conspiracy lore, mob bosses such as Sam Giancana and Jimmy Hoffa felt betrayed by the Kennedys, who had cracked down on organized crime despite rumored Mafia help in JFK's election. One narrative holds that Giancana ordered Monroe killed both to send a message to the Kennedys and to prevent Monroe from going public with secrets. In 1963, less than a year after her death, a sensational pamphlet, The Strange Death of Marilyn Monroe, posited she was silenced to protect the Kennedys. Later, Giancana's own family wrote Double Cross 1992, alleging Giancana worked with the CIA to murder Monroe as part of a Mafia revenge plot. The most dramatic version claims hitmen administered Monroe a fatal Mickey Finn-drugged enema, making it look like an overdose. However, after exhaustive investigations, no credible evidence has emerged to support these claims. In 1982, the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office reviewed the case and found nothing to contradict the original suicide finding. Monroe did struggle with mental health and substance abuse, lending plausibility to an accidental or self-inflicted overdose. Still, the Mafia theory refuses to die. The idea that Marilyn Monroe, the ultimate sex symbol of her era, was assassinated by the mob, whether to get at the Kennedys or as payback for JFK's crackdown, has become a permanent part of her mystique. It symbolizes the intersection of Hollywood, politics, and organized crime in that era. While most historians call her murder conspiracies implausible, polls show a large segment of the public remains convinced Monroe knew too much and was eliminated, a testament to the power of her legend and the dark aura of the 1960s Mafia. Dorothy Kilgallen. Dorothy Kilgallen was a household name in mid-century America. A star columnist for the New York Journal American and a witty panelist on What's My Line, she blended celebrity sparkle with sharp reporting, but it was her fearless coverage of the JFK assassination that may have sealed her fate. Kilgallen was the only journalist to score a private interview with Jack Ruby, Lee Harvey Oswald's killer, and she made no secret of her doubts about the Warren Commission's conclusions. On November 8, 1965, Kilgallen was found dead in her Manhattan townhouse. The coroner listed her cause of death as acute alcohol and barbiturate intoxication, calling it an accidental overdose. Friends, however, were stunned. Hours earlier, she had taped her TV show in good spirits, speaking of an upcoming expose. Stranger still, her notes on the Ruby interview and parts of her manuscript vanished from her home. Author Mark Shaw's later research suggests she had uncovered evidence linking mob bosses Carlos Marcello and Sam Giancana to JFK's murder. According to Shaw, organized crime figures arranged for someone in her circle to deliver a lethal drink, silencing her. Officially, Kilgallen's death remains accidental, but for many, she epitomizes the journalist who uncovered too much truth and paid with her life, Virginia Hill. Virginia Hill wasn't a Hollywood actress, but she was every bit a celebrity. Her name splashed across headlines as the glamorous mistress of Bugsy Siegel and trusted courier for the Chicago outfit. Dubbed the Queen of the Mob, Hill dazzled Senate hearings in 1951 with her sharp wit and insolent testimony. Yet, by the mid-1960s, her fortunes had evaporated. Living in exile in Austria, she was broke, isolated, and rumored to be pressuring old underworld contacts for money. On March 24, 1966, Hill's body was discovered in the snow near a stream in the small town of Koppel, A bottle of sleeping pills lay nearby, along with a note claiming she was tired of life. Authorities declared it a suicide, pointing to barbiturate overdose and her history of depression. But the timing raised immediate suspicion. Friends revealed she had recently threatened to reveal the secrets recorded in her diary unless mobsters sent her cash. Days earlier, she reportedly met Chicago boss Joe Adonis in Naples, collected $10,000, and may have believed she was safe. Instead, she was dead within 48 hours. Many historians suspect her suicide was a mob-engineered execution, staged to look self-inflicted. The theory holds that an assassin gave Hill a lethal dose, folded her coat neatly beside her body, and left her as though she had simply given up. Officially, the verdict remains unchanged. But to mob chroniclers, Hill's fall is a cautionary tale. Once you've lived among killers, even a queen is never beyond their reach. Bobby Fuller. In the mid-1960s, Bobby Fuller seemed destined for stardom. With his band, the Bobby Fuller Four, he scored a national hit with I Fought the Law, an anthem that would define garage rock. Yet within months, the 23-year-old was dead under circumstances so bizarre that fans still debate what really happened. On July 18, 1966, Fuller was discovered in his car outside his Hollywood apartment. His body was soaked in gasoline, and the coroner reported traces of fuel in his lungs and stomach, suggesting he had ingested it while alive. Police rushed to call it an accident or suicide, pointing to a gas can and hose in the vehicle. But friends rejected that explanation outright. Fuller had been in high spirits, rehearsing for shows, and had no history of suicidal behavior. Even more troubling, rigor mortis suggested he died elsewhere and was dumped in the car later. Speculation over foul play exploded. Some said he overdosed on LSD at a party. Others spun wild theories involving Charles Manson's followers, though Manson was in prison at the time. But the most enduring suspicion pointed to the mob. Fuller's band had dealings with Roulette Records, run by Morris Levy, an executive infamous for his Mafia ties and strong arm tactics in the music business. Rumors circulated that Fuller was trying to escape a bad contract or had angered mob-connected associates. Another story claimed he was romantically involved with a gangster's girlfriend, inviting violent retaliation. The LAPD never pursued a homicide case, leaving questions unanswered. Today, many still believe Bobby Fuller was the victim of a mob hit disguised as suicide, cementing his place in rock and roll's hall of unsolved mysteries. Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston was once the most feared heavyweight on earth. He flattened Floyd Patterson to claim the title, then lost it in 2 legendary bouts with Muhammad Ali. Yet outside the ring, Liston was entangled in mob ties from the start. Managers with organized crime links controlled his contracts, and by the late 1960s he was working in Las Vegas as an enforcer and drug courier for syndicate figures. On January 5, 1971, Liston's decomposing body was discovered at his Las Vegas home. He was just 38. The coroner cited heart failure and lung congestion, noting trace amounts of heroin. Authorities leaned toward an accidental overdose, but the story never sat right. Friends insisted Liston disliked needles, making it unlikely he injected himself. They also said he used heroin sparingly, not addictively. Even his wife Geraldine openly doubted the natural death conclusion, telling reporters she believed her husband was murdered. Theories abound. Some say mobsters delivered a hot dose of pure heroin to punish Liston for crossing them or skimming drug profits. Others claim he refused to throw a fight, sealing his fate. A former Las Vegas cop later alleged a mob enforcer admitted to the killing, though the account remains unverified. The sloppy police work, failing even to establish a precise date of death, only deepened suspicion. Officially, Liston died of natural causes, but in boxing lore, he is remembered as a fighter who lived in the mob's shadow and may have died by its hand. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke, hailed as the King of Soul, changed American music with hits like You Send Me and A Change Is Gonna Come. But his death on December 11th, 1964, was as shocking as it was suspicious. That night, Cooke was shot by motel manager Bertha Franklin in Los Angeles. The official account claimed Cooke, wearing only a sports jacket, drunkenly stormed her office searching for a woman who had fled. Franklin said she feared for her life and fired in self-defense. A coroner's jury ruled the shooting justifiable homicide. Yet few were satisfied. Cooke's family and fans doubted the official story. pointing to his upbeat mood, thriving career, and his unusual presence at a rundown motel. The circumstances felt staged. His companion, Elisa Boyer, later linked to prostitution rings, raised further questions about whether Cooke had been lured into a trap. Conspiracy theories quickly took root. One of the strongest claimed Cooke had been marked by organized crime. Unlike most artists of his era, he owned his publishing rights, had launched his own label, and openly resisted mob-connected record executives. Reports later alleged mobsters tried to muscle in on his business, but Cooke refused. Singer Etta James even wrote that she believed Sam was set up for a planned confrontation. Documentaries and exposés continue to explore the mob angle, highlighting how Cooke's push for black economic independence in music threatened powerful interests. Officially, his death remains a tragic misunderstanding. But many still believe Cooke was silenced by the underworld, a soulful voice cut short for refusing to bow to mob control. Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee's death on July 20th, 1973, at just 32 years old, stunned the world. Officially, the cause was cerebral edema, swelling of the brain, brought on by an allergic reaction to the painkiller Equagesic. Hong Kong authorities ruled it death by misadventure, but the sudden collapse of such a seemingly indestructible star invited endless speculation. Among the most enduring theories is that Lee was silenced by the Triads, Hong Kong's powerful organized crime groups. At the time, Triads exerted heavy influence over local studios, often demanding protection money and controlling actors' careers. Some claimed Lee refused to pay kickbacks as his fame soared internationally, angering mob bosses. Others believed his decision to teach martial arts to Westerners violated traditional codes and may have provoked retaliation carried out through Triad channels. Adding fuel, Lee's house was burglarized weeks before his death, and friends recalled warnings from martial arts figures with alleged gang ties. The most dramatic version of the story alleged that Lee was poisoned or even struck with a secret death touch to make his demise look natural. While investigators never found evidence of foul play, skeptics found it hard to accept that a supremely fit athlete could be felled by a single pain pill. The conspiracy only deepened when Lee's son Brandon died in a freak-on-set accident in 1993, sparking talk of a family curse or vendetta. Officially, Bruce Lee died of a medical reaction, but whispers of a Triad hit endure. In Hong Kong's cultural memory, the dragon's death still hovers between fact and myth, an immortal icon shadowed by the reach of organized crime. Pier Paolo Pasolini. Pier Paolo Pasolini was more than a filmmaker. He was a public intellectual who fearlessly challenged Italy's powers. Known for provocative works like Acatone and Say Lo, he was also a journalist and novelist who wrote scathing critiques of political corruption, fascism, and organized crime. That outspokenness may have cost him his life. On November 2, 1975, Pasolini was found bludgeoned and run over by his own car on a desolate beach in Ostia. A teenage hustler, Pino Pelosi, confessed and was convicted, claiming the director had solicited him, and a violent quarrel followed. Yet from the start, many Italians rejected the sex gone wrong explanation. Pasolini had been receiving threats, and his final works, especially his unfinished novel Petrolio, openly accused politicians and mafia figures of collusion. He was also investigating the suspicious 1962 death of oil chief Enrico Mattei, widely believed to be a mafia-assisted assassination. Over time, new evidence cast further doubt on the lone killer theory. Forensic re-examinations in 2005 suggested multiple attackers. Mafia turncoats later hinted his death was a hit, disguised as a sordid encounter, designed to destroy his reputation, as well as his life. Some believe Pasolini was lured to the beach by men pretending to return stolen film reels. Others that he was silenced before he could publish explosive revelations tying elites to organized crime. Though still officially unsolved, Pasolini's death is widely regarded as a political and mafia assassination, a brutal end for an artist who once warned, "We are all in danger." His murder remains one of Europe's most haunting cold cases. Johnny Rosselli. He wasn't a screen idol, but in Golden Age Hollywood, few names carried more off-camera clout than Johnny Rosselli. The Chicago outfit's suave emissary on the West Coast, Rosselli greased the wheels between studios, unions, casinos, and mob money, then later moonlit for the CIA's hair-brained Castro plots. In August 1976, fishermen spotted a 55-gallon oil drum bobbing in Dumbfoundling Bay near Miami. Inside was Rosselli, strangled and asphyxiated, chains wrapped around the barrel, a signature message from people who knew how to make problems disappear. The timing was no coincidence. He'd been testifying to the U.S. Senate about CIA Mafia operations, and was expected back for more. Federal reporting at the time laid out the obvious motive tree. Either the outfit silenced an indiscreet insider, or rival bosses preempted whatever he might reveal. Contemporary accounts and declassified summaries record that authorities strongly suspected a sanctioned mob hit tied to his Senate testimony and long, messy history skimming Vegas profits. In other words, the man who helped export gangster glamour to Hollywood died by the same brutal logic that powered it. Talk too much, and you go in a drum. Sam Giancana. Sam Giancana's career was a study in contradictions. The flashy mobster who dined with Frank Sinatra, yet also a secret collaborator with the CIA in its plots against Fidel Castro. For much of the 1950s and early 60s, he reigned as the head of the Chicago outfit, controlling rackets from Las Vegas casinos to labor unions. By the mid-1970s, though, Giancana's power had waned. He had spent years in exile in Mexico and returned to Chicago, an aging figure with too many secrets. Those secrets may have cost him his life. Subpoenaed to testify before the Senate's Church Committee about CIA Mafia collusion, Giancana was scheduled to speak publicly about covert operations that tied gangsters to U.S. intelligence. On June 19, 1975, just days before his appearance, he was shot 7 times in the basement kitchen of his Oak Park home, once in the back of the head, the rest around the mouth and throat. The symbolism was clear: silence, enforced by the gun. No one was ever charged, but mob historians widely believe his own outfit sanctioned the hit. Perhaps with Tony Accardo's approval, Giancana's death sent a brutal reminder that in the Mafia, no celebrity status or political connections could protect a man who threatened to break omerta. Thank you for watching. If any of these stories gave you a new perspective on old Hollywood's underworld ties, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments.